Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed investors, it is an honor to be here today. I want to talk to you about being smart in business and life. But before we start, let me share a joke. When I first started Alibaba, I went to Silicon Valley and I tried to raise some money. I talked to 30 venture capitalists and 30 of them all said no. So I thought maybe I wasn't speaking their language. Maybe they didn't understand my English, so I tried talking slower, explaining more. Still no. So I went back to China and thought, maybe I'm not crazy. Maybe they are. Now looking back, I am glad they didn't invest, because if they had, they'd be 1% richer and I'd be 99% less successful. I wasn't born smart. In fact, if you look at my background, you might think I was born to fail. I didn't have the best grades. I didn't go to Harvard or Stanford. I applied to Harvard 10 times and each time they rejected me. When KFC came to my city, they hired 23 out of 24 applicants. I was the one they didn't hire. So you see, being smart isn't always about IQ or how fancy your degrees are. It's about something deeper. But let me tell you, when I was a kid, nobody would have bet on me to be where I am today. And I want to share with you what I learned along the way. One of the most important lessons I've learned is that being smart isn't about knowing everything. It's about recognizing what you don't know and surrounding yourself with people who are smarter than you in those areas. Let me give you an example from Alibaba's early days. I knew nothing about technology. I couldn't write a single line of code, and I wasn't a tech guy. But I knew one thing. I had a vision for how the internet could transform commerce in China. The smartest thing I did was hire engineers who knew what they were doing. It's easy to think that as a CEO or founder, you need to have all the answers. But actually, the smartest leaders are the ones who are comfortable admitting their ignorance and seeking out expertise. When we started Alibaba, we tried many different things. One of our early projects was a translation service. It seemed smart at the time because in the late 90s, there weren't many online translation services. But after a few months, we realized it wasn't working. We had almost no customers. The smart thing would have been to push harder, maybe tweak the business model. But the smarter thing was recognizing that we needed to change direction. Being smart isn't about avoiding failure. It's about learning from it. It's about knowing when to pivot, when to stick, and when to move on. When people look at successful companies, they often assume that the founders were super smart from the beginning and had everything figured out. But let me tell you, when we started Alibaba, none of us really knew if it was going to work. We were taking a huge risk. But here's the difference. Smart people take calculated risks. They don't just jump off a cliff and hope for the best. They study the market, analyze trends, and make informed decisions. When I started Alibaba, I saw the rise of the internet in the West. Companies like Amazon and eBay were emerging, and I knew that the same thing would happen in China. The risk wasn't in the idea itself. The risk was in execution. We had to figure out how to make e-commerce work in a country where people didn't even trust online payments at the time. Now let me tell you a funny story. When we launched Taobao, our online shopping platform, we were competing against eBay, which was already a giant in China. My team asked, "Jack, how can we beat eBay?" I said, "Very simple, don't charge any fees." Everyone looked at me like I was crazy. They said, "But Jack, how will we make money?" I replied, "Don't worry. If we attract enough users, we'll figure it out later." And guess what? It worked. eBay started losing market share. And today, Taobao dominates China's e-commerce space. Sometimes the smartest risk is doing something that no one else dares to do. Many people think being smart means you are good with numbers or have great analytical skills. And while those are important, I believe that being truly smart is about having a vision. It's about seeing things that others can't see yet. When we started Alibaba, there were no e-commerce platforms in China. Everyone told me it was a terrible idea. They said Chinese people didn't trust online payments, and they would never buy things online. But I had a vision of a world where small businesses in China could sell to the world. I believed in the power of the internet to connect buyers and sellers across borders. I remember one time I was talking to a group of investors and they asked me, "Jack, how can you be sure that your vision will come true? How do you know people will buy things online?" I said, "Well, I don't know for sure. But I do know that the internet is going to change everything. And if we're not part of that change, we will be left behind. And guess what? That vision became reality. Today, Alibaba connects millions of businesses with customers all over the world. It wasn't about being smart with numbers. It was about believing in something bigger and working relentlessly to make it happen. In business, things are constantly changing. New technologies, new competitors, new markets. You can't predict everything. The key to being smart is being adaptable. It's about being able to change your approach when the situation changes. When we first started Alibaba, our entire focus was on e-commerce. But as the internet evolved, we realized that cloud computing was going to be a major driver of growth. We didn't know much about cloud technology, but we quickly adapted and launched Alibaba Cloud. Today, Alibaba Cloud is one of the largest cloud providers in the world. The lesson here is that being smart isn't just about sticking to one strategy. It's about being flexible enough to change course when needed. One of the biggest misconceptions about success is that smart people succeed quickly. But let me tell you, that's not true. Smart people are persistent. They don't give up when things get tough. When we first launched Alibaba, we faced so many challenges. Our team worked for years without making any profit. There were times when we thought we wouldn't survive, but we kept going. We believed in our mission, and we were willing to put in the hard work to make it a reality. I remember one particular moment. It was during the SARS outbreak in 2003. Our entire team was quarantined in our office for weeks. We were launching Taobao at the time, and everything seemed to be falling apart. But instead of giving up, we stayed in the office, worked day and night, and launched Taobao on time. That persistence paid off. Today, Taobao is the largest online shopping platform in China. Being smart isn't about having an easy path to success. It's about staying the course, even when things get difficult. Finally, one of the most important lessons I've learned is that being smart is about being humble. No matter how successful you are, there's always more to learn. There's always someone who knows more than you, and there's always room for improvement. As I mentioned earlier, I'm not a tech expert. Even today, I still don't understand how half of the technology that powers Alibaba works. But I'm okay with that. I'm willing to admit my limitations and learn from others. I surround myself with people who are smarter than me, and I listen to their advice. Now, being humble doesn't mean you can't have fun with your success. I once joked with my team, I used to be poor and now I'm rich, but one thing hasn't changed. I'm still short. Being humble means recognizing that no matter how successful you become, you're still human and you still have room to grow. So, to all the investors here today, I want to leave you with this thought. Being smart isn't about knowing everything. It's about knowing what you don't know, taking risks, having vision, being adaptable, staying persistent, and staying humble. If I had listened to all the people who told me I wasn't smart enough to build a company like Alibaba, I wouldn't be standing here today. But I believed in myself, I believed in my team, and I believed in our mission. And that's what being smart is really about. It's about having the courage to pursue your dreams, even when no one else believes in them. It's about taking calculated risks, learning from failures, and trusting that with persistence, you'll find a way forward. As investors, you have an incredible opportunity. You have the power to identify, support, and nurture ideas that can change the world. But remember, you don't have to invest in the smartest person in the room, the one with the perfect background or the best track record. Instead, look for the person with vision, determination, and a willingness to learn. One thing I've learned is that being smart doesn't mean you do everything yourself. It means empowering others to succeed. At Alibaba, we've built a company that thrives because we believe in empowering entrepreneurs, small businesses, and individuals. Our mission has always been to make it easy to do business anywhere. When we empower others to succeed, we succeed too. That's the core of our business model. Whether it's through our online platforms, our cloud services, or our financial technologies, the goal has always been the same: empower people. We believe that if small businesses in China could grow, so could we. And today, that vision has turned into a global platform that supports millions of businesses around the world. In business, being smart is not just about making money. It's about building trust. In the early days of Alibaba, one of the biggest challenges we faced was convincing people to trust us. In China at that time, nobody trusted online payments. The idea that you would send money to a stranger over the internet and trust that they would send you a product seemed ridiculous. So what did we do? We built a system that allowed people to pay only after they received the product. It was a simple idea, but it changed everything. People started trusting online shopping, and that trust became the foundation of our business. Let me tell you a funny story about trust. Early on, I went to one of our sellers and said, "We need you to trust us with your products. We'll take care of everything. The platform, the logistics, the payment system, just trust us." The seller looked at me and said, "Jack, you look like a teacher, not a businessman. Why should I trust you with my business?" And I said, "You're right, I used to be a teacher." But here's the thing. Teachers are great at one thing. They're great at helping others succeed. And that's exactly what we're going to do for you. That seller is still with us today, and his business has grown by more than 1,000%. One of the most underrated aspects of being smart in business is timing. You can have the best idea in the world, but if the timing is wrong, it won't work. When we started Alibaba, the internet was still very new in China. Most people didn't have access to the internet, and the idea of online shopping was completely foreign. But we knew that things were changing, and we believed that if we could build the platform early, we would be ready when the time was right. One of the things I've noticed about truly smart people is that they never stop learning. No matter how successful they become, they continue to seek out new knowledge, new experiences, and new ways to grow. When I started Alibaba, I knew nothing about running a big company. I was a school teacher, not a CEO, but I was eager to learn. I read books, I listened to advice from people who were smarter than me, and I made sure to surround myself with people who could teach me. One of the hardest lessons I've learned is that being smart means taking responsibility, not just for your successes, but also for your failures. In the early days of Alibaba, we made many mistakes. We launched products that failed. We made decisions that didn't work out, and we faced many challenges. But through it all, I took responsibility. I didn't blame others. I didn't make excuses. I owned up to my mistakes and worked to fix them. Perhaps the most important lesson I've learned is that smart people are resilient. They don't give up when things get tough. They don't let setbacks defeat them. They keep going, no matter what. As investors, you will see many entrepreneurs who face challenges, who experience failure, who struggle to find their way. But remember, resilience is one of the most important qualities in business. It's not about never failing. It's about how you respond to failure. So to all of you here today, I want to leave you with this thought. Being smart isn't about having all the answers. It's about having the right mindset. It's about being humble, adaptable, resilient, and willing to take risks. It's about empowering others, building trust, and learning from your mistakes. In business, you don't need to be the smartest person in the room. You just need to be the one who is willing to learn, grow, and persevere. That's what will set you apart. That's what will lead to success. Thank you for your time, and I wish you all the best on your own journeys. Remember, the world doesn't need more smart people in the traditional sense. It needs more people who are smart enough to keep going, no matter what challenges come their way. And one last piece of advice. If anyone here is thinking about starting a business, just remember, if Jack Ma can do it, a guy who couldn't even get a job at KFC, then so can you.